Admiral Vexithera stood on the bridge of her flagship, staring at the strange readings on her screen. Her long blue fingers moved across the control panel as she tried to make sense of what her sensors were telling her. The Calarian exploration fleet had been mapping this dead solar system for 3 days now, and everything seemed normal until today. "Admiral, we're getting some weird signals from the asteroid field," said Commander Zilneth, walking up to her with a worried look on his face. "The gravity readings don't make sense. It's like there's something massive hiding in there." Vexithera turned to look at her old friend. Zilneth had been with her for over 20 years, exploring dead worlds and ancient ruins across the galaxy. He had good instincts about these things. If he was worried, she should pay attention. "Show me," she said, moving to the main display screen. The image changed to show a field of floating rocks and debris. To most people, it would look like any other asteroid field, but the computer was highlighting strange patterns in the way the rocks moved. Something big was pulling on them from the inside of the field. "Run a deep scan," Vexithera ordered. "I want to know what's hiding in there." The ship's powerful scanners went to work, sending invisible beams of energy into the asteroid field. Slowly, a picture began to form on the screen. Vexithera felt her breath catch in her throat. Hidden beneath layers of rock and space dust was a structure so large it made their biggest ships look like toys. "By the stars," whispered Dr. Morgax, the ship's scientist. "That thing is huge. And look at these readings. It's artificial. Someone built that." Vexithera studied the data streaming across her screen. The structure was at least 10 kilometers long and half as wide. It was buried deep inside the asteroid field, covered by centuries of cosmic debris. But the most interesting thing was that it was giving off very faint energy readings. Whatever it wasn't completely dead. "What do we know about this system?" she asked. Dr. Morgax pulled up the star charts. "This used to be called the Sol system. The star expanded about 500,000 years ago and swallowed the inner planets. There was a species here called humans, but they went extinct when their planet was destroyed." "Humans." Vexithera repeated the word slowly. She had heard of them in the old records. They were supposed to be a primitive species that never developed space travel. "Are you sure they built this?" "The energy signature is unlike anything we've seen from known civilizations," Dr. Morgax said, running more scans. "But it's definitely artificial. Someone built this thing and hid it here." Commander Zilneth stepped forward. "Admiral, I request permission to take a team and investigate. If this is some kind of ancient technology, the Archaeological Council will want to study it." Vexithera thought for a moment. The Calarian people were known throughout the galaxy as peaceful explorers and scientists. They had made contact with dozens of species over the centuries, always with respect and curiosity. This discovery could be the find of a lifetime. "Permission granted," she said. "But be careful. We don't know what kind of security systems might still be active." 3 hours later, Zilneth's exploration ship carefully moved through the asteroid field toward the hidden structure. His team included Dr. Morgax and 5 other specialists. They had the best scanning equipment the Calarian fleet could provide. As they got closer, more details became clear. The structure wasn't just big, it was beautiful. The metal walls were covered in intricate patterns and designs. Strange symbols were carved into the surface, symbols that didn't match any known language. "I'm reading multiple entry points," said Lieutenant Kexfor, their pilot. "Most of them are sealed, but there's one that looks like it might be accessible." They found a large opening on the side of the structure that was partly blocked by debris. Working carefully, they cleared away the rocks and space dust. Behind it was what looked like an airlock, a chamber designed to let ships enter safely. "The airlock is responding to our presence," Dr. Morgax said with excitement. "It's trying to create an atmosphere. Whatever this place is, it's still partially functional." Zilneth made his decision. "We're going in. Everyone stay alert and keep your environmental suits on until we know it's safe." The airlock opened smoothly, as if it had been waiting for them. Their ship moved inside and the massive doors closed behind them. Emergency lights began to turn on throughout the chamber, casting strange shadows on the walls. They found themselves in a docking bay that could have held 100 ships their size. The walls were lined with empty berths and loading equipment. Everything was covered in dust, but it all looked incredibly advanced. The technology was clearly far beyond what the humans were supposed to have achieved. "Look at these control panels," Dr. Morgax said, running her scanner over a nearby wall. "The materials are unlike anything we've seen. And these symbols, they're everywhere. Zilnath studied the strange markings covering the walls. They seemed to be some kind of writing system, but it was completely different from any known language. Some symbols looked like pictures, while others were more abstract. There were also numbers and what looked like star charts. "Can you translate any of it?" he asked. "I'm trying," Dr. Morgax replied, taking detailed scans of everything. "But this is going to take time. However, I can tell you one thing. This place is old. Really old. The energy decay patterns suggest it's been here for about 500,000 years. That caught Zilnath's attention. 500,000 years was exactly when the humans were supposed to have gone extinct. Could they really have built something this advanced before their planet was destroyed? As they explored deeper into the structure, they found more surprises. There were living quarters designed for creatures about their size but with different needs. The air recycling systems were built for oxygen-nitrogen breathers, just like humans were supposed to be. Storage areas contained equipment they couldn't identify, all made from materials that seemed almost indestructible. "Commander," called out Lieutenant Kexvor from across the docking bay, "you need to see this." Zilnath hurried over to where his pilot was standing in front of a large wall display. As they approached, the screen flickered to life, showing images and text in the same unknown language. "It activated when I got close," Kexvor explained. "I think it's some kind of information system." The screen showed what looked like a map of the local star system, but it was different from the current one. It showed planets that no longer existed, including a blue-green world in the third orbit, Earth, the human homeworld. Dr. Morgax studied the display carefully. "This is incredible. It's showing the system as it was before the star expanded. And look here. There are markers throughout the asteroid field. I think there are more structures hidden out there." Suddenly, the screen changed. New images appeared, showing what looked like massive ships. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands. They were sleek and powerful looking, unlike anything in the current galaxy. "Are those warships?" Zilnath asked quietly. Before anyone could answer, alarms began sounding throughout the structure. Red lights flashed on the walls and the symbols on the displays began changing rapidly. Something was waking up after 500,000 years of sleep. On the main screen, a new message appeared. Even though they couldn't read the human writing, the meaning was clear from the images that accompanied it. Warning signs, weapon symbols, and what looked like countdown timers. "I think we triggered something," Dr. Morgax said, her voice tight with worry. "The whole structure is powering up." Throughout the asteroid field, hidden systems that had waited 500,000 years for this moment began to activate. Ancient engines started warming up, weapon systems ran diagnostic checks, and in deep chambers buried at the heart of the structure, 3 cryogenic pods began their revival sequence. The sleeping warfleet was waking up, and the galaxy was about to discover that humanity's extinction had been greatly exaggerated. Deep inside the massive structure, 3 pods that had been silent for 500,000 years began to hum with life. Frost crystals fell away from their surfaces as internal heaters activated. Inside each pod, a human body that had been perfectly preserved by advanced technology started the slow process of returning to life. Captain Jinho Park was the first to wake up. His eyes opened slowly as warm air filled his lungs for the first time in 500,000 years. The pod's medical systems checked his vital signs and found everything normal. His body had been kept in perfect condition by the preservation technology his people had developed in their final years. The pod opened with a soft hiss, and Jinho sat up carefully. His muscles were weak from the long sleep, but he could feel strength returning as the revival drugs worked through his system. He looked around the chamber and saw 2 other pods opening nearby. Engineer Mira Kim emerged from the second pod, shaking her head to clear the fog of long sleep. She was smaller than Jinho, with quick, intelligent eyes that immediately began studying their surroundings. The third pod released Tactical Officer Dongsu Lee, a quiet man whose calm expression hid a sharp military mind. "Status report," Jinho said, his voice rough from disuse. Even after 500,000 years, military training was still strong in him. "All systems appear functional," Mira replied, moving to a wall panel and connecting with the chamber's computer. Through a neural interface, information flowed into her mind, updating her on everything that had happened while they slept. "The facility is operating normally, but we have visitors." "Visitors?" Dongsu asked, instantly alert. "What kind of visitors?" Mira's face grew serious as she processed the data. "Alien explorers." They triggered our proximity sensors when they entered the docking bay. The automatic systems classified them as a potential threat and began activation procedures. Jinho felt his heart rate increase. This was the moment they had trained for, the reason they had chosen to sleep while their world died. Humanity's final contingency plan was about to be tested. "Show me," he ordered. The chamber's walls came alive with displays showing the alien ship in their docking bay. Jinho studied the creatures moving around inside the structure. They were tall and blue with 4 arms and large eyes. They didn't look particularly threatening, but appearances could be deceiving. "What do we know about them?" he asked. Mira consulted the computer's analysis. The system identifies them as Calarians. They appear to be explorers, not warriors. Their ship has minimal weapons and their behavior suggests scientific curiosity rather than hostile intent. Dongsu moved to another control panel and began calling up tactical displays. "Captain, you need to see this. The fleet is powering up." Jinho's breath caught as he saw the scope of what was happening. Throughout the asteroid field, thousands of ships were emerging from their hiding places. Each one was a masterpiece of human engineering, built with technology that had taken centuries to develop. The fleet was vast beyond imagination. "How many ships do we have?" he asked. 10,400,612 vessels, Dongsu replied, reading from the tactical display. "All classes from fighters to dreadnoughts. Every ship is equipped with quantum weapons, adaptive armor, and self-repair systems." Jinho felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. He was now the commander of the most powerful military force in the galaxy, a fleet that had been built by a dying civilization to protect their legacy. But as he watched the peaceful aliens exploring their facility, he wondered if that legacy required violence. "Mira, can you access the historical records? I want to know what's happened in the galaxy since we went to sleep." "Already on it," she replied, her neural interface glowing as she connected to the facility's massive databanks. "Captain, this is incredible. Dozens of civilizations have risen and fallen since Earth died. The galaxy is completely different now." She shared the information with him through the command link. Jinho saw the rise and fall of empires, the development of new technologies, and the establishment of peaceful trade between hundreds of species. The galaxy had grown more civilized in humanity's absence. "What about conflicts?" Dongsu asked. "Any major wars?" "Some, but nothing like what we expected," Mira said. "Most species seem to prefer exploration and trade to conquest. The Calarians, for example, are known as peaceful archaeologists. They've made first contact with dozens of species without a single violent incident." Jinho studied the aliens on the screen more carefully. They were being cautious but respectful as they explored the facility. One of them was carefully scanning the human symbols on the walls without damaging anything. Another was taking detailed measurements but hadn't tried to remove anything. "They're not looters," he realized. "They're genuine scientists." But even as he watched the peaceful aliens, alarms were sounding throughout the facility. The automated defense systems didn't care about the Calarians' intentions. They only knew that aliens had penetrated humanity's last stronghold, and they were programmed to respond with overwhelming force. "How long before the fleet is fully operational?" Jinho asked. Dongsu checked his displays. "Weapon systems will be online in 6 hours. Engines are already warming up. The AI is requesting permission to engage potential threats." "Potential threats," Jinho repeated. "Is that what we call peaceful explorers now?" He moved to the central command console and placed his hand on the identity scanner. The system recognized him immediately and granted him full command authority. Suddenly, he could feel the presence of the entire fleet through the neural link. 10 million ships all waiting for his orders. The power was intoxicating and terrifying at the same time. With a single command, he could wipe out any civilization in the galaxy. The ships under his command used technology that was centuries ahead of anything the current species possessed. Humanity's desperation had driven them to create weapons of unimaginable power. "Captain," Mira said urgently, "the Calarians are trying to communicate. They're broadcasting mathematical sequences and what appears to be peaceful intentions." "Can we understand them?" Jinho asked. "The translation systems are working on it. We should have basic communication within the hour." Dongsu looked up from his tactical station. "Sir, we have a problem. The automated systems are interpreting any alien presence as hostile. They're requesting permission to launch a preemptive strike." Jinho felt the weight of 500,000 years of planning pressing down on him. His people had built this fleet to ensure human survival in a hostile galaxy. But the galaxy wasn't hostile anymore. It was full of curious, peaceful species who posed no real threat to humanity's legacy. "Mira, can we override the combat protocols?" he asked. She was quiet for a long moment as she studied the system architecture. "It's possible, but difficult. The defense programming runs very deep. It was designed to protect humanity even if the last survivors were compromised." "What do you mean compromised?" "If aliens captured and interrogated us, the system would still fight to protect human interests. The only way to fully override it is with unanimous consent from all 3 command officers." Jinho looked at his 2 companions. They had all volunteered for this mission knowing they might never see home again. They had given up everything to sleep through the death of their world and wake up in an alien galaxy. Now they had to decide what kind of future humanity would have. "We need more information," he decided. "Mira, focus on establishing communication with the Kalarians. Dongsu, keep the fleet on standby but don't engage unless directly attacked. I want to know who these people are before we decide whether they're friends or enemies." As if responding to his thoughts, new alerts began appearing on the screens. More alien ships were approaching the system, drawn by the massive energy signatures of the awakening fleet. Word was spreading through the galaxy that something incredible had been discovered in the Dead Soul system. "Captain," Dongsu said quietly, "we may not have much time to make this decision. If too many alien fleets show up, our defensive protocols might activate automatically." Jinho nodded grimly. Humanity had survived the death of their world, but now they faced a choice that would determine their place in the galaxy. Would they be protectors or conquerors, guardians or destroyers? Outside, the alien explorers continued their careful investigation, unaware that they had awakened something that could reshape the galaxy forever. Engineer Mira Kim moved her hands across the control interface, her neural link glowing as she connected deeper into the facility's central AI. The amount of information flowing through the system was staggering. Every ship in the fleet, every weapon system, every defensive protocol. All of it was awakening after 500,000 years of sleep. "Captain," she said, her voice filled with wonder, "you need to see what our people built." The main display changed to show a detailed breakdown of the fleet's capabilities. Jinho felt his breath catch as he read the specifications. Each ship was equipped with quantum fusion engines that could cross the galaxy in weeks. Their weapons used controlled singularities and directed energy that could cut through any known armor. Most impressive of all, every vessel had adaptive learning systems that could analyze and counter new threats in real time. This isn't just a fleet, he realized. It's an evolution engine. These ships can improve themselves based on whatever they encounter. Mira nodded. Our scientists spent the last 2 centuries of Earth's life working on this. They knew that by the time we woke up, alien technology might have advanced beyond our current capabilities. So they built ships that could adapt and evolve. Meanwhile, aboard the Kalarian flagship, Admiral Vexithara was dealing with her own crisis. Her sensors were detecting massive energy signatures throughout the asteroid field. Ships were emerging from hidden positions, ships that were larger and more advanced than anything in her databases. "Admiral," Commander Zilneth's voice crackled over the communication system, "we're seeing incredible things inside this structure. The technology here is centuries ahead of anything we've encountered, but I'm also detecting activation sequences throughout the facility. I think our presence has triggered some kind of automatic response." Vexithara studied the tactical display with growing alarm. Dozens of ships had already emerged from their hiding places, and more were appearing every minute. Each one was easily twice the size of her largest dreadnought, and their energy readings suggested weapons that could destroy entire fleets. "Can you establish communication with whoever controls them?" she asked. "We're trying, but their systems are completely alien to us. Dr. Morgax thinks they might be human in origin, but that's impossible. Humans were supposed to be a primitive species that never achieved spaceflight." Dr. Morgax's voice joined the conversation. "Admiral, I'm reading the symbols throughout this facility. They're definitely human, but they represent a level of advancement that contradicts everything we thought we knew about this species. These people were far more sophisticated than our records indicate." Back in the command center, Dongsu was coordinating with the fleet's AI to assess the alien threat. The Kalarians had arrived with 3 exploration ships and minimal weapons. Their behavior patterns suggested scientific curiosity rather than military aggression. But the defensive protocols didn't care about intentions. They only recognized unauthorized alien presence. "Captain," he reported, "the AI is requesting permission to implement standard defensive measures. It wants to disable the alien ships and contain their crews for interrogation." "Interrogation?" Jinho asked. "Standard procedure for potential threats. The system assumes that any aliens who discover our location represent a security risk that must be neutralized." Jinho felt a chill run down his spine. His people had built these defenses during humanity's darkest hour, when Earth was dying and they faced the possibility of cosmic extinction. The protocols were designed for a hostile galaxy where survival required ruthless efficiency. But this galaxy seemed different. The aliens who had found them appeared to be peaceful explorers, not conquerors. The question was whether he could convince an AI programmed for warfare to recognize the difference. "Mira, what's the status on communication?" he asked. "I'm making progress," she replied, her neural interface flickering as she worked with the translation systems. "The Calarians use a complex mathematical language base, but their intentions appear peaceful. They're broadcasting continuously about their desire for peaceful contact and scientific exchange." A new voice suddenly joined their conversation. It was the facility's AI, speaking in the calm, measured tones that Jinho remembered from his training days on Earth. "Command authority recognized," the AI said. "I am Arya, Advanced Response and Intelligence Administrator. Current threat assessment indicates 3 alien vessels have penetrated our defensive perimeter. Recommend immediate neutralization to protect human assets." "Arya," Jinho said carefully, "what do you know about these aliens? Are they hostile?" "Unknown," Arya replied. "Alien species classification Calarian. Historical data indicates peaceful exploration tendencies, but security protocols require assumption of hostile intent until proven otherwise. Recommend capture and interrogation to determine threat level." Jinho exchanged glances with his companions. The AI was doing exactly what it had been programmed to do, but its logic was based on assumptions from humanity's desperate final years. "Arya, I'm ordering you to hold all defensive actions pending further assessment," he said. Unable to comply, the AI responded. "Security protocols override individual command authority in cases of alien contact. Unanimous consent from all 3 command officers required for protocol modification." Dongsu looked up from his tactical station with alarm. "Captain, we have a bigger problem. More alien ships are entering the system. The energy signatures from our fleet have attracted attention from across the galaxy. The main display showed new contacts appearing at the edge of the system. Ships from at least a dozen different species were approaching, drawn by reports of the massive energy readings. What had started as a simple archaeological expedition was turning into a galactic gathering." "How many ships?" Jinho asked. 17 so far, with more arriving every hour. Most appear to be exploration or science vessels, but I'm detecting at least 3 military fleets. If this continues, we'll have half the galaxy sitting on our doorstep." Mira's neural interface flared brighter as she received an urgent communication. "Captain, the Calarians are broadcasting a general message to all incoming ships. They're trying to establish peaceful contact and requesting that everyone maintain safe distances." "Are the other species listening?" Jinho asked. "Most of them, yes. But there's one fleet that's approaching aggressively. The Vorthak Empire. They're known for claiming salvage rights on ancient technology." Dongsu's expression hardened. "The Vorthak are sending 12 heavy cruisers. They're not here for scientific study." Arya's voice cut through their conversation. "Hostile force detected. Vorthak fleet approaching with apparent intent to claim human assets. Recommend immediate defensive action." For the first time since waking up, Jinho felt the full weight of command settling on his shoulders. The peaceful aliens who had discovered them were trying to mediate a growing crisis. Military fleets were approaching from multiple directions, and his own AI was pushing for a violent response that could start a galactic war. "Mira," he said quietly, "how close are you to establishing direct communication with the Calarians?" "Very close. Give me another few minutes and I should be able to have a real conversation with their commander." "Do it." "Dongsu, what's our tactical position if shooting starts?" "Overwhelming," Dongsu replied grimly. "Even a single squadron of our ships could probably defeat everything in this system. But if we start a fight here, word will spread. Every military power in the galaxy will see us as a threat." Jinho nodded. That was exactly what he was afraid of. Humanity had survived extinction by becoming the most powerful force in the galaxy. But if they used that power carelessly, They could turn every species in the galaxy against them. A new alert appeared on his screen. Engineer Hyunwoo Choi had awakened from one of the secondary cryogenic bays. He was a specialist in alien technology who had been kept in reserve for exactly this situation. "Captain," Hyunwoo's voice came over the communication system. "I'm reviewing the current situation from Bay 7. I think I might have a solution to our AI problem." "Explain." Jinho ordered. "The defensive protocols were written during the war years when our primary concern was survival. But the AI is capable of learning and adapting. If we can demonstrate that the current situation doesn't match the original threat parameters, we might be able to modify its responses." "How do we do that?" "We let it talk to the aliens directly. Area was designed to be highly intelligent and adaptable. If it can analyze alien behavior patterns firsthand, it might reach different conclusions about their intentions." Jinho considered this carefully. It was risky. Direct contact between their AI and alien systems could give the aliens access to human technology, but it might be their only chance to prevent a catastrophic first contact. "Area," he said. "Are you willing to establish direct communication with the alien commander?" "Acceptable," the AI replied after a brief pause. "Direct communication will allow for better threat assessment. However, security protocols will remain active." On the Calarian flagship, Admiral Vexithera was trying to maintain order as more ships continued to arrive in the system. The situation was becoming more complex by the hour, and she was beginning to worry that someone would make a mistake that could lead to violence. "Admiral," Commander Zilnath reported from inside the alien structure. "Something's happening." The facility's communication system. Admiral Vexithara stared at her communication console in shock. The voice speaking perfect Calarian was clearly artificial, but behind it she could sense a vast intelligence unlike anything she had encountered before. The humans were not extinct. They were very much alive and in control of the most powerful fleet she had ever seen. "This is Admiral Vexithara of the Calarian Exploration Fleet," she replied carefully. "We are peaceful explorers who discovered your facility while conducting archaeological research. We mean no harm to you or your people." There was a pause before Arya responded. "Your behavioral patterns suggest peaceful intent. However, your presence has triggered defensive protocols that have been active for 500,000 years. Other fleets approaching this system include potentially hostile forces. This complicates the situation." In the command center, Captain Jinho was listening to the conversation while studying the tactical displays. More ships continued to arrive in the system and the mix was becoming dangerous. The Vorthak military fleet was maintaining an aggressive formation, while several other species seemed to be taking defensive positions. "Arya," he said quietly, "can you tell if the Calarian Admiral is being honest about their intentions? Analysis of vocal patterns, ship configurations, and historical behavior suggests high probability of truthful communication," the AI replied. "The Calarians have a documented history of peaceful contact with newly discovered species. However, the Vorthak fleet represents a significant threat." Mira looked up from her console. "Captain, I've been analyzing the communication logs from all the arriving fleets. Most of them are here out of curiosity, but the Vorthak are definitely planning to claim salvage rights. They're calling this an abandoned derelict." "Abandoned?" Dongsu said with dark humor. "They're going to be very surprised." Jinho made his decision. "Area, I want to speak directly with the Calarian Admiral, and patch me through to the other fleet commanders as well. It's time for humanity to properly introduce itself to the galaxy." The communication systems connected him to Admiral Vexithera's ship. For a moment, neither spoke as they studied each other through the video link. Jinho saw a tall, graceful being with blue skin and intelligent eyes. Vexithera saw a human face, something she had only seen in ancient archaeological records. "Admiral," Jinho said finally, "I am Captain Jinho Park of the Human Defense Force. On behalf of my people, I want to thank you for treating our facility with respect." Vexithera felt her breath catch. "You're actually human? But your species was supposed to have gone extinct when your star expanded." "We did," Jinho replied simply. "Earth is gone and most of our people died with it. But a few of us chose to sleep until we could wake up in a new era. We've been waiting for 500,000 years to see what kind of galaxy would emerge from the ashes of our civilization." "And what do you think of what you found?" Vexithera asked. Jinho considered the question carefully. "Better than we hoped. When we went to sleep, we expected to wake up in a galaxy dominated by warfare and conquest. Instead, we find species like yours who explore with curiosity rather than weapons. But we also see that not everyone shares your peaceful intentions. As if summoned by his words, a new voice broke into their conversation. It was harsh and demanding, speaking in the guttural tones of the Vorthak Empire. Human vessel, this is Fleet Commander Grextar of the Vorthak Salvage Fleet. You are in violation of interstellar salvage law. This facility has been abandoned for 500,000 years, making it legitimate salvage. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences. The bridge of the Calarian flagship fell silent. Everyone could see the massive human ships on their sensors, ships that made the Vorthak fleet look like children's toys. The Vorthak commander was either very brave or very stupid. Jinho's expression hardened. Fleet Commander Grextar, this facility is not abandoned. It is a human military installation with a living crew. We suggest you reconsider your position. Impossible, Grextar replied. Humans have been extinct for 500,000 years. You are clearly some other species attempting to claim salvage rights through deception. Dongsu looked up from his tactical station. Captain, the Vorthak fleet is moving into attack formation. They're charging weapons. Jinho felt the weight of history pressing on his shoulders. How humanity handled this moment would determine their relationship with the galaxy for centuries to come. He could order Arya to demonstrate their military superiority. A single human ship could probably destroy the entire Vorthak fleet. But that would mark humanity as conquerors rather than protectors. Arya, he said quietly, can you disable the Vorthak ships without destroying them? Affirmative, the AI replied. Quantum disruption beams can neutralize their engines and weapons while leaving life support intact. Do it, but make it clear we're showing restraint. The effect was immediate and stunning. Beams of energy reached out from the nearest human ships and touched each Vorthak vessel. Within seconds, their engines went dark and their weapons powered down. The entire fleet was left drifting helplessly in space. Fleet Commander Grextar, Jinho said calmly. Your ships are disabled, but undamaged. This is a demonstration of human technology, not an act of war. You have 1 hour to withdraw from this system peacefully. The communication channel was silent for a long moment before Grextar responded, his voice much less confident than before. Understood. We withdraw our salvage claim. Admiral Vexithera watched the display of power with a mixture of awe and relief. The humans could have destroyed the Vorthak fleet in seconds, but they had chosen mercy instead. It was exactly the kind of response she had hoped for from a species advanced enough to build such incredible technology. Captain Park, she said, that was very well handled. But I have to ask, what are your intentions now? Your fleet is large enough to conquer the galaxy if you chose to. Jinho was quiet for a moment, considering how to answer. Engineer Hyunwoo had joined them on the bridge and was reviewing the cultural data they had about the various species now present in the system. Admiral, Jinho said finally, when our world was dying, we had two choices. We could accept extinction, or we could find a way to preserve our people and our culture for a future we would never see. We chose preservation. This fleet was built to protect human legacy, not to conquer other civilizations. But surely you want to reclaim your place in the galaxy? Vexithara asked. To rebuild your civilization? We do, Jinho replied, but not at the expense of the civilizations that have grown up in our absence. You've built something beautiful here. A galaxy where dozens of species cooperate and explore together. We don't want to destroy that. Dr. Morgax's voice joined the conversation from inside the human facility. Captain, I've been studying your cultural archives with your AI's permission. Your people made incredible advances in science and technology before Earth died. We could learn so much from each other. Mira looked up from her station with excitement. Captain, I'm reading similar messages from several other species. The Centaurian Republic is offering to share their medical technology. The Altarian Union wants to discuss quantum physics. Even some of the smaller civilizations are asking about cultural exchange. Jinho felt something he hadn't experienced since waking up. Hope. Not just for human survival, but for a future where humanity could be part of something larger than themselves. Arya, he said, what's your assessment of these offers? Analysis indicates genuine interest in peaceful cooperation, the AI replied. Multiple species are offering technological and cultural exchange without apparent hidden agendas. Threat levels remain minimal for most contacts. But even as hope grew, new complications arose. Dongsu's tactical display showed more ships arriving at the edge of the system. These weren't explorers or scientists. They were military vessels from the major galactic powers who had heard about the mysterious fleet in the Dead Sol system. "Captain," Dongsu reported, "we have 3 more military fleets approaching. The Hegemony, the Star Confederation, and the Zilani Empire. They're not taking aggressive positions, but they're clearly here to assess whether we represent a threat." Admiral Vexthera saw the same ships on her sensors. "Captain Park, I think you're about to receive some official visitors. The major powers will want to know where humanity fits in the current galactic order." Jinho nodded grimly. The next few hours would determine whether humanity's return to the galaxy would be peaceful or hostile. He had the power to dictate terms to any civilization, but he was beginning to understand that true strength might lie in choosing not to use that power. "Mira," he said, "prepare a message for all incoming fleets. Tell them that humanity is prepared to discuss our place in the galaxy, but only through peaceful dialogue. Any fleet that approaches with hostile intent will be turned away." "And if they refuse to listen?" Dongsu asked. Jinho looked at the massive display showing his 10 million ships, each one a marvel of human engineering. "Then we remind them why our species survived extinction while others fell to time. But let's hope it doesn't come to that. The galaxy was about to discover that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their advanced technology. It was their ability, Toms." Captain Jinho Park stood in the command center, watching as more ships arrived in the system every hour. What had started as a simple archaeological discovery had become the largest gathering of different species in galactic history. Representatives from over 30 civilizations were now present, all wanting to understand what humanity's return meant for the galaxy. The decision he was about to make would echo through history for thousands of years. He had the power to become emperor of the galaxy, to demand tribute from every civilization, to reshape the cosmic order according to human will. His fleet was large enough and advanced enough to enforce any demands he chose to make. But as he watched Admiral Vexthera coordinating peaceful communications between the various species, he realized that conquest would destroy everything beautiful that had grown in humanity's absence. "Mira," he said quietly, "are you ready to make the override?" Engineer Mira Kim nodded, her hands moving across the control interface. "The AI protocols are set. Once all 3 command officers agree, I can reprogram Arya to prioritize cooperation over conflict." Tactical Officer Dongsu looked up from his station. "Captain, are you sure about this? Once we change those protocols, we can't easily change them back. We'll be giving up our ability to respond with overwhelming force." "No," Jinho replied. "We'll be giving up our willingness to use overwhelming force as our first option." "There's a difference." Engineer Hyunwoo had joined them from the secondary command center, bringing with him Dr. So-Young Kang, a xenobiologist who had been awakened specifically to help with first contact protocols. Her expertise in alien psychology was proving invaluable as more species arrived. "Captain," So-Young said, "I've been analyzing the communication patterns from all the arriving fleets. Most of them are genuinely curious about us. They want to understand how we survived and what we learned during our long isolation. Only a few seem to view us as a potential threat." "What about the major powers?" Jinho asked. "The Hegemony, the Confederation, the Zilani Empire? They're being cautious," she replied. "They want to assess our intentions before committing to any particular relationship." "It's actually a very reasonable response given the circumstances." Arya's voice filled the command center. "Captain, Admiral Vexthera is requesting permission to come aboard our facility. She wishes to discuss the establishment of formal diplomatic protocols." Jinho considered this. Allowing aliens aboard their most secure facility would be a massive show of trust, but it would also demonstrate that humanity was serious about peaceful cooperation. Permission granted, he decided. Extend the same invitation to representatives from the other major powers. It's time for proper face-to-face diplomacy. 3 hours later, the main conference chamber of the human facility hosted the most important diplomatic meeting in galactic history. Admiral Vexthera sat alongside delegates from a dozen major civilizations, while Captain Jinho represented humanity with his 3 fellow officers. The chamber itself was impressive enough to reinforce humanity's technological superiority, but Jinho had deliberately chosen to wear simple clothes rather than military uniforms. He wanted to appear as a leader, not a conqueror. "Friends," he began, using the word deliberately. 500,000 years ago, our species faced extinction. Our star was expanding, our world was dying, and we had a choice to make. We could accept our fate, or we could find a way to preserve our legacy for whatever civilizations might emerge in our absence. He gestured to the displays around the chamber, showing images of Earth's final years and the massive effort to build the preservation fleet. We chose to become guardians. Not conquerors, not overlords, but guardians of knowledge, technology, and culture. This fleet was built to protect those things, to ensure that what humanity learned during our time in the galaxy wouldn't be lost forever. Ambassador Eugen Park, recently awakened from another preservation facility, spoke next. She had been chosen specifically for her diplomatic skills and her deep understanding of human culture. What we offer, Eugen said, is partnership, not domination. Yes, our technology is advanced, but technology without wisdom is just another way to destroy yourself. We've learned that lesson through 500,000 years of sleeping, while the galaxy grew and changed around us. Fleet Admiral Kelthorne of the Star Confederation leaned forward. Captain Park, your offer sounds generous, but we must ask about the practical implications. Your fleet is capable of destroying any civilization in the galaxy. How can we trust that you'll maintain your peaceful intentions? It was exactly the question Jinho had been expecting. Admiral Kelthorne, let me show you something. He nodded to Mira, who activated a display showing the fleet's command protocols. These are our military control systems. For 500,000 years, they've been programmed to see any alien contact as a potential threat. That programming nearly led to violence when Admiral Vexithara's people first found us. The alien delegates listened with growing attention as Jinho explained the AI's original defensive protocols and the crisis they had faced during first contact. Today, Jinho continued, we're going to change those protocols permanently. We're going to reprogram our entire fleet to prioritize cooperation over conflict, to seek peaceful solutions before considering military ones. The chamber fell silent. Several delegates exchanged glances, clearly surprised by what they were hearing. You're giving up your military advantage? Asked Delegate Morthex of the Hegemony. We're choosing to use it responsibly, Dongsu replied. The fleet will still be capable of defending ourselves and our allies, but it won't default to aggressive responses. Dr. Tae-min Song, another awakened human specialist in cultural preservation, added, this is what we mean by guardianship. We're not just protecting human culture, we're protecting the peaceful galaxy that you've all built together. Admiral Vexithara spoke for the first time since the meeting began. Captain, this is an extraordinary gesture of trust. But how do we know you can actually make these changes? How do we know your AI will accept the new programming? Because, Jinho said with a slight smile, we're going to do it right here, right now, with all of you as witnesses. He moved to the central command console and placed his hand on the identity scanner. Mira and Dongsu joined him, each adding their authorization to the override sequence. Arya, Jinho said formally, by unanimous consent of the Command Authority, we hereby modify all defensive protocols. Priority 1 is now peaceful cooperation with non-hostile alien civilizations. Priority 2 is protection of human assets through diplomatic means. Priority 3 is military response only when all other options are exhausted. Command Authority confirmed, Arya replied after a long pause. Protocol modification accepted. All fleet assets are now operating under revised guidelines prioritizing peaceful cooperation. The change was immediate and visible on every display in the chamber. Throughout the asteroid field, the massive human ships began powering down their weapons and shifting to peaceful formations. The threatening posture that had dominated the system for hours was replaced by an obvious defensive stance. Several alien delegates were checking their own sensors, confirming that the human fleet had actually reduced its threat level. Remarkable, whispered Delegate Morthex. They actually did it. This is the foundation of the new relationship we're proposing, Eugen explained. Mutual trust, shared knowledge, and cooperation for the benefit of all our civilizations. Fleet Admiral Kelthorne studied the tactical displays carefully. Captain Park, what do you want in return for this gesture? The chance to be part of the galaxy again, Jinho replied simply. We've been alone for 500,000 years. We want to share what we've learned and learn what you've discovered. We want to help protect the peaceful civilization you've built. Over the next several hours, the foundation of what would become known as the Guardian Accords was laid out. Humanity would share their advanced technology with all member civilizations, while other species would contribute their own knowledge and expertise. The human fleet would serve as protectors of galactic peace, responding to threats against any member civilization. Most importantly, joint crews would be established on human ships, ensuring that no single species could use the advanced technology for conquest. Dr. So Young would lead the integration program, while Engineer Hyun Woo would oversee the technology-sharing initiatives. As the meeting concluded, Admiral Vexithara approached Jinho privately. "Captain, I have to ask, why are you really doing this? Your people could rule the galaxy if you wanted to." Jinho looked out through the chamber's viewing port at the diverse fleet of ships floating peacefully in space, representatives from dozens of species working together, sharing knowledge, building something greater than any one civilization could achieve alone. "Admiral," he said quietly, "we tried ruling once. We ruled Earth for thousands of years, and in the end, we couldn't even save our own world from a dying star. But you and the others, you've built something we never achieved. A galaxy where different species cooperate instead of fighting, where knowledge is shared instead of hoarded, where exploration is chosen over conquest." He turned to face her, his expression serious but hopeful. "We don't want to rule that. We want to protect it."